are they a developer? They might be, because they're developing three
They might
lots.
be,
They're
they
not
might be.
developing, and maybe none of them are their homes, right?
Right.
So, I mean, there are lots
That's a
of
good
those on
point.
this island. So I don't know. I really think it's the same thing.
Well,
So I wonder, back to your slippery slope comment, a couple of things I'd add to Don's. I don't know where the division is. We use developer as a bully pulver right now to attack, but straw man.
Mm.
But so does that mean there's no more neighborhood company meetings?
Yeah.
There's no more Albert meetings. I think, like we all do, my preparation very seriously. Part of my preparation personally is to make sure I understand what is driving some of the outcomes that have created. I really hone in on belief systems of people, and then their behaviors, and then the outcomes. That's the order by which I process. So to understand what's motivating, whether it's a code, whether it's like structures, whether it's neighborhood compatibility, the amount of information and insights I glean from those interactions saved me an hour and a half in here of interacting with those people. And the same thing that may be only interesting to me, I assume it will be transferable to other people, but I'm doing that to get a baseline of how to see the impact, where it's coming from, and what options do we really have when we're talking to these folks. Maybe we want something they can't do. So I've learned over the last 2.5 years an extraordinary amount about the codes, about the application of the codes, and about solutions to our codes from these subject matter experts. Now, I don't know if that's going to be included, and I can no longer meet with those folks to get me ready to interview with the applicant that day, but that would bother me in having to do that, or more so to make that so structured and recorded and documented and all that, that it's extemporaneous conversation. It's, you think of something, you say something else. It goes in that. That's how humans interact in a normal and productive way. Then I think about EIBC. I'm sorry, the food trucks. I think about the amount of interactions we had with that organized group of residents.
Mhm.
Does that go into the conversation? Do they have to come here, interact with that? Is that a developer conversation, only not with the developer?
Mhm.
I just can't get I can't discern where the edges are. I understand the obvious ones.
I don't
don't-
think there is an edge.
And there you are.
Right.
So I want the hybrid, Anita, that I think you guys tried so hard to do, which is we want to follow the rules. We're responsible for following rules. We should have to disclose everything and anything we do in following the rules. But it's still a community that has conversations, it has relationships, it has networks, and it has a culture that expects you to take that into consideration when you do things too. And some of the formality, in my mind, sterilizes that mix that makes us so special and unique. So those are my initial concerns.
Mhm.
See what the other members feel.
How about you, Doug?
I up until you raised the issue, I didn't see it too problematic that people reached out. Again, the gentleman that wanted to do a walkway over the dunes, I went by his house. He heard his story. I didn't necessarily agree with it, but I felt like it was an opportunity to listen to somebody's side of the story. But on the other hand, I do recognize that we tend to, I met with the developer, I met with London Bay, but then what do we talk about? And I'm sitting here trying to remember what we talked about, frankly. But I think if we went forward with a little more disclosure about what we talked about, it would just be a little more burden on us to take some notes and make sure that we, are able to discuss what we talked about. And I'm okay with that.
Jane?
I will say that I sometimes feel a little pressure from the developers to identify whether I agree or disagree. And I think that should be not happen when you go in.
Well,
Yeah.
you're never going to get that not to happen, Jane. You just
Well-
have to, I mean,
I listen, and if I have questions, I write down questions I want to ask before I go in. And otherwise, I just say, well, I'll consider
you.
this at the thing. Thank
So
you.
you don't share any concerns?
I don't
Gosh.
typically, yes, like with Seagate, I said 5 accesses off of the Nora.
Right.
That's wrong. And how many do we have still? Okay, never mind.
17 stories,
Yeah,
those kind of things. I
yeah,
mean, I've definitely
do
shared that.
I do that too.
That not only for me, but for the community, right? I feel like I represent the community.
Yep.
So I'm a voice of many. And I say, I know this is a concern.
Yeah.
You should consider this.
Mhm.
you might choose not to and still bring it, and
Mhm.
you may or may not see the
Mhm.
way the votes go that way.
But here's the glitch. The glitch is, so now we're in the quasi judicial hearing, and it's your duty to disclose the information that you have come to and come up with and discuss that will or could affect or impact your vote to the public and for the record. So that's what we're not doing.
So what
And,
I should
and
have
maybe
done,
it's just the quantity of it or the quality or the quantifiable elements of our conversations. I don't know yet.
so maybe I would have to disclose that I questioned the 5 things and the 17 stories and the mass and the
Right.
size. And
I
the-
think so.
Which
That's
I'm happy to do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I am too.
and-
mean,
There's
I don't have a
I
problem.
think
And that-
there's a perception that as far as transparency goes, that meeting with the larger developers, they're trying to divide and conquer.
Mhm.
They're looking for their majority votes.
That's not
And-
just a perception, Jim.
Yeah.
It's not just a perception.
So, meeting with them without some sort of complete disclosure about what they prodded you on or what questions you ask, I think leaves a gray area that the public is going to question.
Mhm.
So let me ask a
They
functional
need-
question to
they-
that,
They're
Jim.
entitled to know, the public is entitled to know what those discussions entailed. So whether that's done by audio recording, minutes, or verbal disclosure, I think we need to go that step so that
Yeah.
the people know what transpired outside of the public.
What happens on the way in and the way out, though, right? Not everything's going to be recorded, right? So, I mean, if you're trying to, you can't ever prevent or guarantee one with 100% certainty, right? If someone has that interest on either side, it will happen, right? And so,
They can
but
walk
I'm
into the
100%
car.
with you. Happy to disclose it. It's just, I don't know.
And what happens when, say, a counselor meets in a setting like that, it's recorded, and the other counselors watch that recording of the interaction with one of their peers?
They couldn't.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be allowed to. They could do so afterwards, but if they watched it, that's the slippery slope I've brought up before about Ed. I know you're listening, Beach Talk Radio, because when a council member or an LPA member or someone who is in a voting position
That's right.
talks about a subject publicly like that and it's broadcast, you're broadcasting your intentions to
Mhm.
your other members, whether you like it or not.
Right.
That's what's happening.
So they
And
wouldn't be allowed
that
to,
is very dangerous.
wouldn't be allowed to watch it before the meeting. And so
No,
they'd
you
have to
wouldn't be able to.
disclose that
But-
they didn't watch it.
That's
it's-
correct.
But it's disclosed at the meeting what was stated, right? I
Yeah.
mean, if I come
Yeah.
to the meeting and say, I had this meeting on this date and we discussed these things and I expressed these concerns, everyone else knows now what my concerns are. They see what's presented and they go, oh, Don's a no vote on this because of what he said was his concerns and what he communicated, or
Ju-
could be,
It
right?
could be, right. Just because you have a concern about
Right.
it doesn't mean
No,
you're yes or
but-
no.
But-
Yeah,
That gives them the opportunity to
does.
fix it.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh,
Exactly.
absolutely. Yeah.
that's right.
Right, we hope.
John,
right?
what were you going to say?
I was going to say that I believe that although at the extremes, we certainly know the difference between a local resident without any real interest in a project and a large developer, and those are easy to differentiate. When we get to Don's point of citizen developers or what have you, that becomes very, very much more difficult.
Or even the
But-
food truck park,
or
because
even-
that's a resident doing
Well,
that.
and that is a resident that's doing it, and it was concerned residents around them
Mhm.
that actually were reaching out. And personally, I think it's important, to Jim's point, that I am as prepared as I personally can be to understand what the issues are from the community as well as from the developers, and to understand how they are trying to broach any differences that they might have. And I think it's extreme. Number one, I am open to meet with anybody, resident or developer.
Mhm.
I am also willing to disclose that to anybody. I have
Bingo.
no issues with that.
Right.
I think the practicality of recording it and then putting in these types of extra burdensome steps in it may be in itself prejudicial. And I have a bit of an issue with that because I
Mhm.
certainly don't think the run-ins at the Publix or whatever else, I mean, that's just not practical,
Mhm.
right? But if there's a scheduled meeting with developer A, developer B, or concerned community group A or community group B, I think that certainly rises to the level where we should at least know what date it was, who we spoke to, and the topics of conversation.
Mhm.
I'm not sure that I'm not a great note taker, quite
Mhm.
frankly. But the other thing I'll say is that not only does that help me prepare and understand all aspects of it, not just one side versus the other, because we all know they're more complicated than that. What it also allows me to do is understand the areas that I'd like to question or probe further
At the hearing.
inside the session,
Right.
which will then help perhaps educate my fellow members
Mhm.
as to what my concerns or support or whatever it may be during open discussion, which is public and
Right.
perfectly acceptable. And I also would say, I think it's incumbent on all of us, and we have all had training for sunshine laws. I'm not aware of anybody that's meeting with groups of people, or we've got pretty good guidelines of how we're actually able to do this. We've all had our training. We're all doing the disclosures. Could we do better disclosures? Sure, absolutely. I think that makes complete sense. But information is out there. It's part of what we bring to our decision making, whether it's Beach Talk Radio, whether it's social media, whether it's whatever it may come from. There's information all around us.
Yeah.
You know, and it's incumbent on us to ensure that we're only considering the information that's presented to us on the record,
Mhm.
right? We can be influenced by that other stuff, but we certainly have to make sure that we are not prejudicial, or excuse me, we're not prejudicial to that information. And if we want to expose something that we are perhaps had brought to our consciousness, the place to do is in the meeting.
Yes.
Right.
And that's my belief on it.
Let me ask Anita, would it like result, like if, I think like when we disclose whatever meeting we had,
Mhm.
if we just had some guidelines like who, what, when,
Mhm.
you know, all you need, hey, I met with these people on this date. They showed me their project. They asked me if I had any questions. I had a few questions. I asked about this, that, or the other. That's simple.
Yeah.
Is that enough to?
That's enough.
Yeah, I think it's a good start for sure. It's you know, I singled out Beach Talk Radio, and I probably shouldn't have, because there's a million pages on Facebook and other social media who are doing just the exact same thing, maybe a contrary position or whatever, but it's the same sort of lobbying that occurs that you read or you notice or whatever. And we certainly can't be blind to that, and we aren't. But I you know, the idea of and maybe to a certain extent, when you know that something is a hot button, or once we know that there's a hot button topic, maybe those meetings do occur here at Town Hall. It gives it the semblance for sure of being more above board, as opposed to
At the
being
dinner table.
as opposed to being, I'm going to use the word courted by going to a lovely high rise and having a nice spread of lunch or whatever. I mean, I'm thinking about, and I hope that the Freeland group doesn't take offense at this, but I'm thinking of the very first, and you all went, the very first meetings we had at Pink Shell. When the Arches was doing their first presentation, there was food, there was it was like we were going to a little mini party. And that's very nice. But I think if, let's just take the average citizen in Fort Myers Beach, if they knew all those details, would they have a lot of, how would they feel about that? And I think they would feel like we were being extraordinarily influenced. And that's the whole purpose of it, of course, is for them to pitch their project and show us the details and whatever. My my whole idea here is for us to present to the public and to the applicant and to the staff as much information about where we are and how we got there at the moment that we enter those hearings, and to be as explicit as we possibly can. That's my goal. I don't think that as a small community, Jim, I heard you say that when you were on Beach Talk, I heard you say that you thought everything should be discussed in a collaboratory way with the LPA or with the council. And I agree with you in theory, but I'm going to tell you in practicality, it's just not going to work that way. And I think we knew that early on, that because of this, I'm going to use my store again. I jokingly tell people, but I mean it. If you want to know what's going on, Will, any day, come and sit down in one of those chairs in front of the dressing rooms. I'm telling you, you're going to hear everything. Everything.
Don't sit in front of the dressing rooms, Will.
The barber shop.
It's like a confessional. People sit there and they just talk about everything that's going on in town. And it's quite insightful. And especially when there's a big case coming forward, it's a buzz. And it's a buzz about town, period. Not just the chairs in front of the dressing rooms. But I just think that we need to fill this gap. And it's the difference between how we were 30 years ago as a little town that had nothing happening. Well, we had that pink shell case, Publix. Oh my God, was that a controversial
And the theater.
hearing? The theater was
Where
too.
would we be without them now?
Oh, but the world was going to come.
Oh,
to
I
an
know.
end
It was
with
too big. And I
Publix.
read all the minutes.
It was
So-
horrible.
Anita, it gets down to, in my mind, first of all, like it or not, we all bring our biases to these conversations because we have experiences in life. We have professional and personal. It's not to have prejudicial, whatever Nancy said on that kind of bias towards the decision, but we bring our perspectives to it in that regard. And you're talking about things with Beach Talk, and I look at that very differently in this way from social media. That is done in the public, 90% of what he does. You're able to sit in that room and he constantly invites people to come
does.
have
It's
real-time
true.
dialogue. You don't get that on Facebook with the interactions that are coming. Believe me, we've
True.
been a recipient of all of them. It's
True.
all one way. There's no way to express without other keyboard warriors coming back here with that. That is an open forum for anybody to participate in. And my experience is he will take all sides and put them on the air. So while it's not perfect for the reasons you're talking about, maybe influence other counselors, other people, it's much deeper in the information share. And there seems to be a lot more debate going back and forth with whether it's his personal position or one he's representing, he's hearing a lot of, than you get in any other social media environment.
Agreed.
So it's informative. So to me, it's down to one thing, and that is how do we more further disclose what it is we did, where we did it, what the scope of that was. And even to the point, if you did say some things like, Denora, there's too many, putting that out there, I don't see that as presidential. I think that as being honest.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
that's a good deal. So I'd like to be focused on further disclosure guidelines, I think, which Doug talked about, and us have an obligation, a requirement to stick to those and disclose accordingly versus over engineering the front end part of this.
So does anyone think that we should not have meetings, period? Do you think that?
So
No,
can
I mean, and then, all right, was that directed at Nancy?
No, it was directed at you.
okay.
Go ahead.
I mean, every person, regardless of what we adopt, recommend, has the option to say no. You
True.
don't have
That's
to
right.
go
That's right.
and have any of that. If you feel uncomfortable, you shouldn't do it. As far as we can't forbid the meeting, so we need some, what would you say, guardrails, what type of disclosure that is. Maybe that's the first step.
Mhm.
And we come up with some guidelines there and we say
Yeah.
who, what, where, when, why, and we're going to go on the record and make that disclosure on any ex parte. That's a good step.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. Nancy, did you want to involve?
I do. So I think the conversation that you had is really, really good.
Thank you, Nancy.
Well, no, you all went to those specifics. And if you would indulge me, I'd like to give you the bigger picture and kind of the framework. And I think that that may help guide you ultimately to what you decide to do or not to do. So going back to what Anita said, she said, well, we used to never have to do these things, and we used to have a free discussion. And that is very true, because legally, all rezonings, a lot of things were legislative in nature, not quasi-judicial.
That's right.
There was a case that came out, it was the Snyder decision. And the Snyder decision sent shock waves through local government communities, because the court said that site-specific rezonings are quasi-judicial, which then raised the flag in the Jennings case about how much conversation could you actually have with someone who is proposing a rezoning case. The Florida legislature then reacted to that, which is what Jim was
Hold on a
saying.
second. Patrick, you don't need to fill that up. I'm glad you're here. Go ahead. Go ahead, Nancy.
Which is what Jim was saying, that the legislation regarding sunshine says that you can adopt procedural rules, which is true. Then a lot of local governments, I think virtually every one, adopted some ordinances that allowed access to those elected and appointed decision makers in these quasi-judicial proceedings. And here in Fort Myers Beach, the ordinance is 34-52, which starts setting forth what the parameters are for communications with public officials. Public officials are defined as elected or appointed. A definition of legislative action, which is more policy orientated rather than real private property rights orientated, which I think you've probably heard me say a couple times, because when you talk about infringing upon someone's private property rights, then they have the rights to due process, which is certain notices, the right to the correct application of the law, and their decision to be based on competent substantial evidence. I mean, how many times do I say that all the time?
You
So
do.
that's kind of how that piece of the puzzle fits into the bigger picture. I will also say that when the legislation was passed that Jim brought up, local governments fought so hard to be able to make sure that that dialogue between, they made no distinction between whether it was developers or residents, that dialogue remained, because that was very, very important. So then it becomes kind of a balancing of how do you safeguard private property rights and still allow access to elected or appointed officials. So in your code of ordinances, there is the very last part, it's paren D. It talks about disclosures made pursuant to A, B, and C must be made before or during the meeting which the vote is taken, so that persons who have opinions contrary to those are given a reasonable opportunity to refute or respond. And then it doesn't subject the public officials to any type of code of ethics violation under Chapter 112, which it does not. So then, based on that, if you remember, you all adopted policies and procedures. And in your policies and procedures, there is a section in your quasi-judicial land use page that talks about, during the process, as we had today, we had 2 quasi-judicial matters. The chair is going to ask the LPA if they've had any ex parte communications. This includes any site visit, receipt of expert opinion, conducting of investigations, discussions with any persons, direct or indirect, in the form outside of a public hearing and not on the record. Sometimes when there's a lot of disclosures made, I may ask the question just to say, having made all these disclosures, has anyone brought any biases or predetermined decisions to the public hearing? Because the property owner is entitled to an impartial decision maker, a decision maker that's going to look at the testimony and the record that is presented to them in the public hearing, and then apply the code to the facts and render a fair decision.
And the public deserves that too.
The public deserves that as well. So I do want to caution you that, having these forums and outside, conversations, it is very important that you do not suggest that you have already made up your mind, because that will taint the quasi judicial hearing, and it will be a basis for a challenge in the event that challenge goes forward.
Nancy, let me say something. Bringing this up, I want to be very clear that I do not think anyone, council member, LPA, applicant, our friend Patrick, I don't think anybody has done anything wrong, illegal, immoral. Everything is okay as it is. I just think it can be better. And I think we can have more disclosure. But the process that exists right now for us, because I had a lady say to me, it's illegal for those council members to be meeting with developers. No, it is not. It is not illegal. And it's not wrong in any kind of way. They are allowed to do that. And as John and Jim both said, it helps them be prepared for the case. The only sort of empty box here is the amount of information that is disclosed in the course of the hearing about what did we bring, what's in our basket as we come to the meeting.
And that is correct. And I think Doug brought it up, the who, what, when, and why. And
Yes.
I think Jim did, as well as others. So you already have a framework in place, and the ball is kind of in your court as far as how much more do you want to go forward and making those disclosures. Now, some of the things that Jim's brought up, you could already go ahead and do right now. Or if you really wanted to, you could try to embed it in your procedural rules. This is how you govern your the matters that come before you. However, we do have SB 180, which talks about, more burdensome procedures. So now you're going to make everybody come down to City Hall. Some people may find that to be a burden. Some people may find it to be a pleasure.
So Nancy, do procedures, policies and procedures you're indicating as a potential option, do they bolt on to an ordinance and therefore would enhance or override the baseline requirements of the ordinance itself? Or are they standalone documents?
They are your procedural rules.
Right.
And basically, I believe your code, and this is usually how they're written, they will say that the LPA shall adopt procedures to govern their work.
So here's why I ask. If you go back to the ordinance you cited in subparagraph A, it says clearly about disclosure like this. It's not presumed to be presidential or prejudicial. I'm sorry. Here's the criteria. If the subject of the communication, identity of the person, group, or entity with whom the communication took place is disclosed and made public prior to any action, then that's what the ordinance requires. Subject and the people, that's it. So clearly, that's a very low baseline for disclosure. So would we not have to embed in an ordinance what we really expect to have happen to make it have the rule and the effect of law versus just a policy and procedure that would look more optionality or changeable?
I guess before you go embedding it in the rule, because once you put it in the rule, it's a rule and you need to follow it. And if it's not followed, then that raises possible objections. You can do these things
Voluntarily.
right now.
Oh, absolutely.
As a matter of
when, and
policy.
where. And sometimes too, I know in other municipalities where I have worked, a very controversial matter would come up, lots and lots of disclosures made. I asked the question of the body, are you still impartial? Can you render a fair decision here? And sometimes too, I will ask the applicant just to put on the record whether or not they felt that they've had a fair opportunity to have a decision made. Having heard the ex parte disclosures, do you have any questions? Some attorneys will ask further questions.
Right.
Anita, you said that you had a meeting with
That happened in a case.
With
where I
George.
tried to think who-
We've
yeah.
had it interlocated.
what did you talk about?
Yeah.
And how long was the meeting? So those parameters and frameworks are in place. I honestly, my recommendation is that you just use the framework and the process that you currently have. I don't think you really need to make the rule harder.
No.
You just need to comply with the rule. You know, on a lighter note, it's kind of like, okay, I need to lose a little bit of weight. So I'm going to try this diet. It's not working. Why? Because I'm not following it. So I'm going to get another diet. But if I went back to that first diet and actually did what it said, it would probably work.
So Anita, I bring that
Best
up.
story of my life
I-
right there.
I bring that up so that that conversation happened with her because, as you know, on charter review, we're being asked many, many times to put chapter and verse in there, delineated down to the expected behavior. And that is an abuse of that document when there are other ways that she just talked about to have the same behavior come out and give the flexibility for the contemporary council, whoever it is, to make those updated policies as they fit the moment. So I think that's a great answer. I'm glad it's public again, because I'm not sure how many people watch the charter, but clearly with this, we can make our own policy and procedures without having to deal with the legislation itself and follow those accordingly.
Well, but some of the things too that I think Jim's brought up, and I mean, you know, meeting at town hall, if I were an appointed member to a board, I might want to have that meeting in town hall. Simply because maybe I don't want people knowing exactly where I live or where I hang out. I don't want the perception out there. I mean, town hall is a great place and it's available. It's very neutral. But do you have to put that in your rule?
No, no.
We can make.
Just
sure
a
we
matter
got
of
it.
practice. Exactly. What were you going to say?
Well, two things to address Jim. First, the LPA rules only apply to us, whereas 3452 would include the council, which would take a resolution or ordinance. And going back to what I think Jane brought up earlier is, and Nancy brought up, is we need to be very cautious about somebody asking for an advisory opinion before the public hearing. They all want to know, well, what do you think about this?
Yeah.
But to come in and be objective, you can't say those things up front. So
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see what Pat has to say since he's
Yeah, I
down
am
here.
too. And so, is there any objection from the LPA to have 3 minutes worth of commentary
I
from Mr.
object.
Vaness? Do you object?
It's a long time.
Well, 3 minutes.
A long
is-
time.
That's why I said
I don't know
that.
if you
Can we start with a minute and a half and see how it goes?
Yeah. And we don't care how you're feeling. Just
No, we
use the
don't
3
care
minutes.
today.
Yeah.
Okay, go.
Well, good morning, Pat Vaness for the record.
You guys are like, good Amy.
As you guys can probably guess, I was at home, working from home, and I saw the discussion.
And you said, oh, hell, I got to
I figured
go.
I am, get in the car and rush over. So, well, I'm glad you're talking about this. And I figured I'd come down and give you my thoughts. And if you guys want to ask me questions, I'd be happy to answer those. I've worked in, and I still work in multiple jurisdictions, some of them which allow us to meet with elected officials and have these discussions. Some others, once your application is in process and submitted, you can no longer talk to them. You can talk to them before, but you can't once you're in process. In my opinion, this ability to meet with people one-on-one is constructive. And it's an equal playing field. You know, there's a lot more people out there in the public than there is of me and my team. And those people all have access to you and can provide their input. I think what it does, and sometimes when people don't fully understand the development and review process, and we've seen this on social media or in some of the local papers about projects coming before you and negotiating public benefits, for example. And what I've explained to people is, you know, this is a year process a lot of times by the time we get to the hearing. The entire year process is a negotiation with the local community. So it's, you know, this idea of bartering on the dais, I don't think is good for anybody. I think when you have an opportunity to meet with elected officials and get an opinion from them as to what their concerns are, what they may or may not like about a project, we take that to heart. We make adjustments again, ultimately, if I'm going to do a good job for my client and for a project I believe in, is I want to make it attractive and beneficial to get a yes. So there's a lot of benefit in me meeting with people, knowing what the concerns are, and making adjustments as we go along and once we submit. The other thing is, what we see in a lot of communities is we see mandated public meetings with the neighbors. It's not a requirement here. And personally, I like the fact that it's not a requirement because it does give a little flexibility. If it's something like a small little variance, or for example, development order for Old San Carlos for the old Kilwins, it's a minor project. There's a lot of support. Does it really make sense for us to have a meeting with the community, open it up to everybody? But when we have a project where we know there's concerns and we know the public is maybe wants more information, we've gone out of our way and just voluntarily done that to open it up and get input from the public. So I think the flexibility and the openness and the options is a good thing. I think it's worked well. But in any political process or public process, I think it's education. It's education. I think, Anita, when you're getting questions from people, I'm sure there's a big, very informed base that know. And then you have some people that might be up north for half the year and they come down and, they haven't kept up with everything and they ask a question. So I think right now, I don't see the process as being broken. I think it's working well. I think that no matter what you do, you will always get questions from people, and you always have a very informed group and a lot of people that are not informed.
But Patrick, look, you're sitting at your house.
Yeah.
You hear us talking about this. Boom, you run down here and you have the entree
Mhm.
to sit in that seat and have us say, Patrick, come up.
Yeah.
But 5,000 other people who might be listening to this meeting, assuming they are, don't.
Mhm.
Now, I'm not saying that if 20 people didn't show up to talk about this, that we wouldn't have said, okay, this is a public hearing. We want to hear from all of you, because that would have been good. But it's no surprise to anyone that, of course, you want this to be open and flexible. We're not talking about it shouldn't be. It should be. The only thing that we're trying to figure out is how do we bridge this gap of the old world to now this new reality of ours to create a greater comfort level for everyone of disclosure. Like me saying that, when I met with you and I, not disclosing every little word, because like Don said, a lot of it is just conversation.
Yeah.
It's just conversation. But what was the gist of it?
Mhm.
What concerns did I raise? Was it something substantial that I'm coming into the meeting, like Jane said about Seagate, 5 entrances and exits off of Denora? This is ridiculous. Saying something like that,
Yeah.
that's substantial. That's really what we're talking about, not eliminating this. It wouldn't be healthy in this community to eliminate it,
Yeah.
I don't think. And I know that there are people that think the door should just simply be closed. It should be closed because it's wrong or it's unethical or whatever. I don't happen to be of that opinion. I'm just trying to find in this new reality, a better way of keeping everybody informed.
And I think, and I value when Nancy at every meeting goes through a pretty detailed, spiel,
Very
but it's
detailed
useful
spiel.
in that it reminds everybody of let's be a little more thorough on our disclosures, because as I mentioned, we've got a lot of other jurisdictions and it's just a quickly, any ex parte, no, yes. And a lot of times there's no description as to what that discussion was.
Most
So
times.
I think Nancy's doing a great job kind of urging you and nudging you along to provide a little more detail. And I think that's very helpful.
Okay. Does anybody have a question of Patrick? Please say no.
Thank you.
It's nice to see you, Patrick. Thank you for coming down. I'm just curious. Will, Frank, do you have any comment on this? Have you had any issues with it? They're both waving their head no. Okay. No comment. All right. Okay. So, Jane, what were you going to say?
Well, I'm going to just say that most of these meetings happen before we have minutes our package. So, I mean, I don't mean minutes, but our agenda
Our
package.
agenda.
So we're going in blind, for me anyway. I go in for an informational gathering from them so that it will help me read and digest the package when I get it. Because, if it's 300 pages, you need to have a little more information sometimes and a visual to start to create what you think you're going to read. And I typically don't converse back and forth unless I see absolute things that are terrifying me. But I think it is important to have the meetings so that we can have an understanding per our package, because it does help us digest it. But I do think that I would prefer to have those meetings here and not have to travel.
Well, then you could say
in
that.
town, yeah.
You can say that.
Yeah.
So can we all agree that maybe as a start, an effort towards this, the who, what, where, when will be part of our disclosure?
Agree.
Yeah, I think that's
Yep.
fine.
For sure.
I mean, that will be a lot, especially for people who either don't take notes well, like John said,
But
or people who don't remember, like me.
But every meeting that I ever take is at least in my calendar.
Mhm.
There you go,
I know
exactly, is at
who,
least in your
where,
calendar.
when, and of course, what
Okay.
we spoke about.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Nancy,
we could
how do you feel about
discipline
So what I'm
ourselves for
hearing
that.
then is
Yes.
perhaps that the LPA at this point in time is going to do some leadership by example. And then
Well, that sounds a little
Not-
uppity,
Not
but
just, I hope it's not just this point. in
Also
time.
sounds like we weren't.
Oh,
doing that
that's what I'm
before.
hearing down there.
Oh, kick in the stomach. there.
no, this is just an idea. And it is, I think it's going to go I really do think it's going to go a long way to people feeling more, when I say people, I mean the residents, because darn well you're included in every conversation, but not everybody is. And so they'll feel more represented.
Oh,
Yeah.
transparent too.
Transparent too. Yeah. Okay.
so
Yep.
it might also create a little bit of an awkward moment for you guys, in that if John comes and does his disclosures and he's got 5 or 6 of them with details, Jim does the same. I'm going to skip Anita. Go on to Jane. Everybody does, but then oh no, Anita doesn't. She knows she met. So you're
You
kind
know
of
it's
putting
going to
some
happen.
pressure
And I'm the
on
one that brought the
yourself.
whole thing up. Yes.
So just wanted to put that out there.
Well,
So
I
we'll
think
have no scorning of members who do not, Dunlap,
choose
I'm
not to
speaking
meet.
you.
Oh, come on. Tell the truth, Anita.
You sure no one was in here?
well, I think it's quite often that some of us have had the ex parte and some of us haven't.
Absolutely.
We couldn't make a meeting, or we didn't want to go to a meeting, or
Sure.
if you want to meet, I'll meet you at City Hall.
Yep.
I mean, we have the option of declining or
Absolutely.
setting the terms of a meeting. And we don't always all have the same ex parte experience
That's
on
true.
any
That's
individual
very
thing.
true. Yep. Okay. Anything else on this at the moment?
Oh, good conversation.
Great conversation. All right. So, Pat, thanks for coming down.
Now,
I haven't
if
heard from
please,
you in
we
a
can
while.
talk
I'm
about
wondering
you.
why nothing's going on, but that's another conversation. All right. Next item on the agenda is LPA members' items and reports. John, anything?
No, I have nothing at this time.
How about you, Jim?
Nothing.
Jane?
Nothing.
Doug?
Nothing to report, ma'am.
Don?
Nothing.
Jim?
Yes, I have one. Jason, can we borrow you for just a second at the mic?
Discipline here.
And Jason, maybe you could introduce whoever's sitting next to you.
Of course, I plan to do that on our portion of the
Oh,
agenda,
okay.
but if you'd like to do that now, we can do that as
Well,
well.
since you're up.
Absolutely. So I'd like to introduce Luke Cornbaugh.
Hi,
And
Luke.
He
Luke.
has just joined us in the past, what have you been here now? Less than a week? 2 weeks? 2 weeks.
Wow.
It flies by here. So I'm gonna defer to Luke to give a little bit of his background, but it's really great having somebody in the seat now. Luke's coming in as a planner 1 position, and we really look forward to him jumping in with both feet.
Oh, wonderful.
Welcome.
Welcome, Luke.
Hi, thank you for welcoming me. It's 2 weeks here. Was a planner up in New York. Just moved down here about a month ago, and all that. I was working for Wayne County up in New York, and I'm excited to be down here and help out the department. I know there's a lot going on, so very happy to
We're a very different.
It's very
animal
nice,
than
very
New
nice
York.
to meet you.
Thank
Very
you.
nice
Welcome.
to meet you. Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
We're a very tough group, so get ready.
So,
Please prevent us from becoming New York.
Oh.
Wouldn't be
Okay,
wearing
go
that
ahead,
short sleeve
Jim.
shirt.
So Jason, the other Jason was here before, and Anita and I spoke about getting a document that gives us current status on all
Sorry,
of
it's
the
like he reads my
pending
notes.
projects, permit applications, all that thing. Number one, assume you're aware of that. And does March still look like a date you can bring that to us?
I don't see any reason that we wouldn't be able to do that. So I'm working with Jason right now on a couple other projects. As soon as we're done here, I'll remind him that that is an expectation for delivery on.
That's all I
March.
have, Madam Chair.
I'm going to piggyback on that because that's my item also. And what I'm wondering is, would it be possible to have a spreadsheet of some sort? I say spreadsheet just for lack of a better word because I want to be fancy. A spreadsheet that gives us an indication of where a project is. It's been approved, it's in review. I mean, I know you guys must have that in your system,
We do.
but
yes.
for us, just to kind of follow along, we've asked for updates, but that could be the update in and of itself, just being able to chart all of that. Because once we pass something, I mean, people ask us, well, why haven't we seen anything? I mean, that's a big discussion right now. Why don't we see anything? And we could tell them, well, here's where it is. Here's what's happening. That would just be a very good visual aid and help us keep track of what exactly is going on and going down the line. Amy, Nancy, what do you think? I mean, would that be?
information.
Yeah, it is. I think that would be a helpful
You
thing for
just-
us.
The development and then across the top and check,
Yeah.
approved by LPA, approved by council, plan submitted, blah, 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 all the way down to CO. And even if you could put that on the website, I think the public would
Oh,
I'd
love
love
to
it.
see it.
They would love it. Yes.
I'm particularly interested that, just like you talked about administrative approvals, there is a process outside of your process that many of these applicants have to go through. So those delays are not representative of anything we're doing or not doing. So as you're aware, those DEP and all other things, and the wave wall is a big discussion, and you can't get that done until you have the entity done, all the things that we all know because we sit here a lot, the public may not be as well acquainted with. But any of those asterisks that you have there, that there's a second, third, or statewide party that says it's in that process, we don't have the ability to necessarily monitor that real time, and I'm asking you to do that. But it does illuminate that there are things outside our control that look like delays here that we shouldn't be accountable for or reflect on our performance.
Okay.
And when he's saying our, he means the town because
Absolutely right.
because it is that perception of what are they doing wrong or
Yeah.
why aren't they doing
Why
anything
aren't they
past that.
starting?
when in fact
Yeah.
there is anything and something being done. Are you leaning in for a reason?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Okay. All right.
So, so we do keep a running schedule for our own purposes to make sure that we know what's coming up. My idea was really to just take the first 3 or 4 columns that doesn't have any what we would consider to be proprietary information about our reviews and our
Oh,
internal
no,
staff,
no. Yeah.
discussions. But I envision you getting a list much like we have a running list, and essentially you'll be able to see everything in red is stuff that we're waiting for submission from the applicant. Everything in green is generally waiting for a scheduling for the meeting, and the odd ones in between that we may be waiting for a submittal, so they may be gray. That's the sort of document that we have now. Is that something that you think would be beneficial?
Yeah, the dates are really going to matter.
Yeah.
The
Uh,
dates of submission or where
Dates
they
of the
are?
LPA approval, like Jim was talking about,
Okay.
all the way through. So if somebody was approved 2 years ago and there isn't a permit application yet at your level, or that's going to cause a different reaction, at least for me,
Of course.
on
And
all
from
the effort
everybody.
we went through to do what it is. And we're going to get the illusion of what's really happening and not happening out of the way. And I love Jim's idea about posting those updates whenever you can,
Mhm.
but I'm looking for the dates on these things.
And there may need to be a comment column. I mean, I know some end up held up in legal or
Legal,
financing
yeah.
issues. There's a lawsuit filed and now suddenly it's not happening. So
That's fair. Yeah.
Right.
And that could be posted also.
So
Well, it just eliminates the whole discussion of what are they doing wrong?
Exactly.
Yeah. What are we
understandable.
doing wrong?
So let me just say that there's a little bit of a disconnect from things outside of the town. So if we have a superior jurisdiction like FDEP, They may have applied to get our certificate from the town to show that it is ready to be reviewed by DEP, but they're not necessarily required to let us know that they've begun that process or they've actually finished the process. If they hand us what they get back from the state, we absolutely make it a part of the package.
Mhm.
But if there are particular projects that you would definitely like to specifically know that you're hearing about, staff through Frankie would like to know what you're interested in, because anything that has already gone through approval generally comes off of our list, so it doesn't become too unwieldy. So if there was something 2 years ago that you're looking at the lot and saying, well, why haven't they put sticks in the ground yet? That may not be available on the list that I have, but if you contact us to get specific information about where we've gone with it and where it ended, I can definitely provide you that information.
I think we're all looking for the same thing. It's not whether or not the pool got built.
Mhm.
It's whether
No,
or
it's
not
major projects.
exactly.
Right.
It's major projects.
You know
And-
which ones.
And if it has been approved 2 years ago, it just should say approved 2024. And now it's approved. And so you see what I'm saying?
Of
It just, it's going to take away some chatter that doesn't
Okay.
need to be happening.
Completely understandable.
Okay. Anything else, Jim? Great. Oh, go ahead, Jim.
Oh, go ahead. You started
My only other issue or comment I was going to bring up, and I'm glad you're here, Patrick, is we've also asked for updates on the major projects, to give us some verbal thing of what's happening. And I had another idea. What if we actually were to invite the person that came to mind this weekend, and I almost called him, but it was Sunday. I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. I was going to call Bill Washulis and say, Bill, come in and tell us what's happening with the pink shell. How's your business? What's your plan for your project? And give us an update. And maybe it would be better to come from those property owners or their representative than actually having staff give us an update, which will be very staffy. Exactly. And what we really want is some, juiciness of what's really going on. What do y'all think about that?
I like it, but we can't depend on
No,
communication to happen. So
Correct.
I want the chart.
But look, Patrick's sitting here.
And maybe we could invite them, one per meeting to come in and give us an update on.
I'd like to see the information, and I think our invitation is going to become pretty obvious.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you think of that? Just nod.
Yes.
Oh,
I mean, I
he
don't.
can't
I don't
charge
want,
for that.
I don't want somebody to have to get up. I don't want somebody to get up here and say, you know what? I can't get any money. I'm not asking them to do that. It would just be nice to hear, you know what? This is in our 2030 forecast. Okay. It's in your 2030 forecast. Great. Now that just sort of takes it out of people's and my mind that it's 2030, because quite honestly, the perception is you all approved this. Why
Why
aren't
isn't it
we
here?
seeing it? And I'll just say one thing, the comments that I get repeatedly are, we need a restaurant. When that restaurant's not going to be here, these people won't be alive when that restaurant is built. And which I don't mean that meanly, but it's
Wow. I mean, I beg your pardon.
Gosh, I plan on living a few more
I plan to
years.
look
eat at
this
all
way,
the
we're fine.
restaurants.
Nancy,
good.
you were right to point me out because it is going to be a problem. I'm the problem. But just to have some kind of update, it would be nice to have those regular updates, just so everybody knows.
And deadlines matter, and I'm not sure all
But
of
they
us
don't have
remember.
deadlines.
I don't remember the expiration dates on all the development agreements.
Ah, yes.
So get that on there,
Oh,
and then we
There
have
is?
the gap becoming self-evident.
yeah.
Indeed. Okay. I think I have marching orders. on what
Tracy, you
put
have
on
to
that.
fill out a speaker card. No, I'm kidding you. No, I'm kidding you. I'm kidding you.
Jason,
Yes, sir.
have we heard back from the state on comments on the comp plan?
I've not heard directly, but I'll ask again. I think we were still within that 30-day window that they have to respond back to us, but I'll double check the date. I think I sent that to you in email, and I forget the date at this point. It was 28th
No,
of
I
this
thought
month.
we were looking at the end of January, so.
I will double check on that one to see if we've had it come through again, and I will let Frankie know to reach out to you with
Thank you.
where we are on that.
Okay. Thank you, Jason. Thank you very much. Any other LPA items? Tracy? it's nice to have you here. But it's
Thank
nice to
you.
have all three of you here. It's like either what did we do wrong or hey, look, we got all three of them.
No, this is some exciting updates, actually. Tracy Kohler, Deputy Town Manager. I'm here today to just quickly speak to you about our advanced digital tools that we are pursuing as a town. As part of this, it will help the efficiency with which you were asking Jason and Community Development to produce for the LPA. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples of things that we're currently in pursuit of. One is a virtual assistant that is kind of, when you go on those websites and they say, hi, how can I help you? And you can type in, well, there's going to be a virtual assistant soon coming to our town's website.
Wonderful.
Where residents can come in. When you're clicking away, right, some things are so buried deep down and
yes.
it's impossible to find. You can go to the web assistant, type in your question, they'll bring you directly that link.
What a great idea.
Yeah, and it'll bring you right to where you need in the town's webpage. So that's going to be a big help for residents. It'll bring them directly to, for example, the permitting page. I think you may have gotten an update on GovWell, which is the new permitting system and eventually code system. We also have another digital tool.
Wait, Tracy, I didn't get that update. I
Oh,
don't know.
We
what
did
you're
not.
talking
Oh,
about.
okay. So there is another tool that the town is pursuing right now. It's called GovWell. And GovWell is a platform where we've all worked in iWorks, right? And it's like really cumbersome and difficult to understand. And the naming convention is difficult with the files. GovWell is an updated platform separate from iWorks, brand new company that is going to help us with our permitting process. It'll be very clearly flow proof, which means you can see exactly what staff member is reviewing it and what the status is. So you get a better update, clearer, cleaner update of where the project is. That's in development, really exciting for us. Again, the links will be clearly marked so you understand what you're looking for. There's a code enforcement or code compliance piece that's coming further down the road. Does that kind of help with that
It's
portion?
fantastic news.
So as an addition or a supplement to that, we have another digital tool that we're pursuing right now. The company is called Madison AI. And Madison AI is kind of like our internal chat GPT because it will keep all of our searches, it will help craft reports, but it'll keep the public records request as well. So it creates a whole different digital footprint, if you will, for all those things. So here's what I envision. Jason has to craft a report for you and you need it efficiently and effectively. He'll be able to use Madison AI, connect into GovWell and say, hey, generate this report for me that talks about the steps of where this development is. Has it already been approved? Well, what other comments or conversations have we put into the system as notes? And he'll be able to craft something much more easily to present to LPA so that you can have that information and update it. So when you have Patrick Van Ass or someone else come in to speak, there will be this complementary component to it that should be able to give a better narrative. Again, I know right now you may say that, well, you're talking vaporware. Vaporware just means it's coming down the road. It's not yet in place, but at least it gives us some forethought and some visioning of where the town is going and the possibilities that we have. So we're really looking forward to increased communication and conversation.
Bravo.
Wonderful.
So that's the update I wanted to provide today.
AI has made it to the beach, but all I keep hearing in my head is Nancy one time saying to me, Anita, we don't make legal decisions based on what Google says.
Oh.
Because I said to her, well, Nancy, I Googled. And she said, yeah, okay, that's good.
So you know what? I'm glad you brought that up because Nancy and I and Human Resources have crafted we don't like to use AI because it's a little bad rap. So it's more than that. It's an advanced digital tool. And in our policy, we talk a lot about when we craft our reports, when we do our research, that it's not purely, in this case, I'll say AI driven, that there always has to be a human component to it. So there's a responsibility
Review.
policy on how we use these advanced digital tools so that staff have that ownership of not just hitting search, it spits it out, we send it off without any human. Because I can tell you from personal experience in working with all of our FEMA activities, our advanced digital tools like ChatGPT can pull from wherever and tell you that this is the regulation. But when you really get down to where that citation came from, it's not always accurate. So human intervention will always be important when you use an advanced digital tool.
So speaking of human intervention, and I'm sure you're considering all this, but we all have real life experiences of digital free falls where you get in the loops when you're asking questions. And whether I'm asking Xfinity what the weather's like tomorrow, they tell me to unplug and reboot my modem over and over and over. So my preference in the way that I ran my company and the influences we had was there's always an exit ramp that a
Yes.
human can be contacted by a human, whether it's spontaneous or whether it's a follow-up. That's just the user-friendly things. And I'm sure you've got all that attitude in the way you're building it. Is very, very important to protect the relationship we have with the public,
Very good.
that they can get out
Comment.
and talk to somebody or get a call back when they need to.
So we do have a virtual voice component coming as
Of
well.
course.
So thank you for the setup.
Yeah.
Thank you for the outside pass. I'll shoot the 3-pointer
And
now.
what does that mean?
So that means you'll be able to call in. You'll hear a digital voice saying,
Oh, I hate
who
those
would you
things. I
like
hate
to
'em.
speak
I hate 'em
to?
with a passion.
And the digital voice will connect you to that department. If at any time you do not wish to speak to said digital voice, you can ask for operator. But some people just want to say, how do I get a parking permit? And it'll just
Well,
tell
true.
you.
Yeah.
So it's all
I'm
about
a
efficiency,
people
but please
talker.
know there's always, to Jim's point, a
Doesn't surprise
human
you, does it?
factor that you can connect with. The relationships are important, we know.
I think if
Huh.
I could make a commentary almost, it's the customer service aspect of town's responsiveness to the residents is only improved over the time that I've been sitting here at least. Continues to, I can tell that it's a forefront
Thank you.
to,
That's important for our staff to hear, so
For
we
what
we
you're trying to
appreciate
do.
that.
and to Anita's point, maybe she's going to say operator
Oh, I'm
or
going to hit
administrator,
0 or star or
right
whatever
off
as
the
soon as
bat,
I dial.
you
It's
know,
just-
You're just gonna you're just gonna
This
walk
is Anita.
in
other of us would prefer to.
You're right.
via the window.
Doesn't need a window.
Yeah.
But no, it's appreciated, and that human component is extremely important in any of these tools because they are strictly that. They are
They are
tools.
cool.
They're, the shovel may be good for this thing and the spade may be good for something else, and you have to give people the opportunity to make their choices.
They get
and
scared.
Interact.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, so hopefully that gives you some excitement to look forward to. in the next 6
Congratulations.
months or
That's
so.
just marvelous.
Please
news.
come at every
Really
meeting with all.
marvelous.
That was good to hear.
Yeah.
Nice to have a little lift
Very
up at
good.
the end.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Will. And thank you, Frankie. Thank you. Okay. Next item is community development member items. Do you have anything, Jason, or you used up today? I'm not asking Nancy anything because it'll be long.
Ooh. Patrick, what are you doing today?
So
Absence?
we
Okay.
we do not have any specific large projects coming up. The one that we had assumed would be on this one has been pushed again. We don't have any determination on when they will choose to come in, but we will have it on the agenda as soon as they do.
So are
So-
you saying not
We have
We don't know.
We have not been given the go ahead by the applicant to
Okay.
schedule anything yet.
All righty.
How long in advance does an applicant have to? I mean, can they do it the week before, or does it have to
We'll be
be
flexible, but we have
Okay.
to meet the notification
Right.
timing. So in general, I think the minimum we would be talking about is 17 days at that very least. But we
Here's
would-
what I hope doesn't happen. All the other people who want to come in don't get pushed aside.
we have made sure that we pulled everybody that was ready to go. That was not a large project, and we've tried to backfill these past 2 meetings with stuff. Some things worked out a little better than others, but we've cleared the deck on a lot of the smaller projects that honestly would have been displaced by this larger project.
Good. Well, they shouldn't be
Oh, yeah, I
displaced.
like,
So
that's good.
Okay.
All afternoon.
go to lunch, violate the sunshine law or something.
Yeah.
I said that as a lead in to Nancy.
Yeah.
Nancy,
Nancy.
LPA attorney items? Look at her face.
No items.
Are you serious?
No, I'll come up with something for
Come
next month.
on.
Motion to
We
adjourn.
want
Motion to
something.
adjourn.
Thank you, Nancy. Any items that anybody wants to put forward for next month's agenda? Jane,
Yes, I need an excused absence. I will be out of town.
you're not going to be here for March?
No.
Denied.
Okay.
Yeah,
You're not going to be
denied.
here for March either?
No, he denied
Oh,
my.
second to now.
request.
Okay. Anybody else have anything?
Motion adjourned.
Thank you, Jim. Is there, thank you. We